these Terapagos and Dusknoir based decks always want to do.
Nest Ball to kick things off, so at minimum, can get, of course, the Fan Rotom potentially to get some Pokemon out. Terapagos, maybe Pedro learning his lessons, saying, you know, I might need to get some more Pokemon that are Terra Pokemon in play before I start to build up and, you know, bench lock myself out. Of course, that Area 0 does extend the bench to 8, but it's only if you have that Terra Pokemon in play first, so you've got to be really careful in setting your board up. A lot of times when you have Dusknoir, it's a little bit more flexible. Now, in this list, there is a thinner line of Dusknoir.
It's like a mini package.
It's like a little package, so that can always work, right? You can put the Duskull down, and if you need the bench space, you can use that Curse Blast ability to open it up.
It's actually a very similar line to what we see in some pure Charizard decks. So you kind of have here the 2 Duskull, the 1 Dusclops, which most of the Terapagos pure variants don't play anymore, and then the 1 Dusknoir. So a 2-on-1 line just to do that little bit of math fixing. It is the full complement of 4 Hoothoot, but only 3 Noctowl, so really valuing getting those on the bench early, which makes a lot of sense. And then, well, actually, one important thing to note on the counts, there are only 2 Area 0 Underdepths in the list. That's going to be a big one because, of course, normally in the pure Terapagos variants, you play 3 or even 4. Only having 2 means you need to time them at the exact right moment to make the most of them.
So the choice off the Nest Ball is that Fan Rotom, and Fan Call in turn will be used. We'll definitely see some Hoothoots come down into play. The Pidgey, of course, is in the active spot, so no need to get another Pidgey. And it will, in fact, be the choice of 2 Hootoots, and actually, interestingly enough, does have the 50 HP Hoothoot. It has a cool ability that prevents your energy cards from being disrupted on your board. Can be a nice way to, you know, give yourself a little bit of a advantage against decks like Iron Thorns, potentially, but a lot of people have, you know, favored out of playing that Hoothoot just because having 50 HP right now is just not a great number.
Yeah, funny enough, because of a card that Pedro himself plays, of course, that Dusclops, the Cursed Blast, does put 5 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon, and that is exactly enough to KO these 50 HP evolving basics, which is also why the 50 HP Pidgey, which would normally be more optimal, hasn't seen play either for similar reasons.
Honestly, it's unoptimal in some cases, not a lot, in some cases. But be honest, you get to play a character art rare. Like, why would you not want to play that? Why would you not want to play the most high rarity version of a card? I mean, that's honestly the biggest selling point for that Hoothoot.
Yeah, I guess you're right. And we do see there the illustration rare Pidgey there in the active. Although I must say, I'm quite fond of the shiny 50 HP Pidgey as well. That one is quite nice.
Nice, but currently out of favor. Otavio will start his turn off with a Nest Ball in kind. And Regidrago V will be the selection. Very standard stuff here for Otavio. Start to threaten the turn 2 Apex Dragon. It is bread and butter with this deck. Exactly what you are trying to accomplish game after game. Where things differ is really what attacks you decide to use, how you want to spread your damage counters, but these turn 1s are almost identical depending on no matter what you're playing against.
Yeah, that does really tend to be how it goes. Now, given that Otavio is going second this game, going to be very important to get down multiple Regidrago V. You do not want to be in a situation where you end up with only 1 down, and then if Pedro just has the completely bonkers turn, ends up getting a full bench going with a Terapagos to get a KO onto a Regidrago V. That's not what you want, but it looks like a second Regidrago V drawn off this professor's research, so he's fine.
But no energy cards, and that is definitely the big question at this point of, now that there is another Nest Ball in the hand, obviously, if you don't have to play Squawkabilly down, it's not something you'd like to do. There's things like Regidrago V-Star in the hand, a supporter card for next turn, but I think this is a situation where Otavio might just value having that turn 1 attachment over or putting, you know, a lower HP Pokemon in play, and in kind has to use that Squawk and Seize ability to try and, you know, get his energy full or board full of energy, and will do exactly that as Squawkabilly can come into play as it's not in the prize cards.
Yeah, and this is exactly why you play Squawkabilly, right? You don't necessarily want to use Squawk and Seize ability. It is a liability to get KO'd later on. It is a 2-price Pokemon that has only 160 HP, but in a situation like this, exactly like you said, you need those energies down. You want to start doing your Teal Dance. You want to start attaching your fires onto your Regidrago. So yeah, even with the massive discard that's happening here, and to be fair, a Dragapult EX and a Kyurem hitting the discard pile is not bad either.
Not bad at all. Did lose a few of those Draw Supporter, 1 Iono, and 1 Professor's Research. But these 6 cards really need to find Otavio some energy cards. And it does find just that.
Yeah, there we go.
Energy, and it looks like an Earthen Vessel plus some okay cards to discard in this spot. And an interesting sequencing choice here that I like from Otavio, wants to find as many energies as possible, so he's actually just going to use this Teal Dance before playing the Earthen Vessel. Unfortunately, did not find an energy card, but did find a Cleffa. This could be a spot where Grasping Draw could give the pieces for Otavio to put together a powerful attack, and it looks like Otavio does want to end his turn off in style by using that Cleffa.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. We do see there actually, oh, hold on. Is he thinking about not playing the Earthen Vessel, maybe?
Could potentially, play this Super Rod from hand first. That could be the consideration, and this is the situation here. So can play the Earthen Vessel and then decide whether or not it's worth playing the Super Rod. And that's really the question here, but I think I like this from Otavio. You can get rid of one of the Super Rod, that's okay. If it means you can keep that Teal Mask Ogre Pawn on the bench instead of having to shuffle it back into your deck and getting this attachment down onto one of your Regidrago on the bench as well.
Yeah, because now you can go ahead, attach the fire to the Regidrago, put that down that second Teal Mask Ogre Pawn EX, make use of one more Teal Dance, and then hopefully play the rest of the hand out to do a really big Grasping Draw. I think that's going to be pretty much the ideal turn for Otavio there.
So Teal Dance number 2 being used. Another card drawn. It is Hawlucha. That can always be a card that's useful later on down the line. And we'll see the Grasping Draw fill the hand up to 7, so 4 cards being drawn. As action is back on Pedro. Pedro really needs to have a lot stronger of a turn 2 than he did on game number 1. But it all surrounds the fact of there being no Terra Pokemon in play currently. Do see the glimmer of some of those powerful Stage 2 Pokemon, the Pidgeot EX and the Charizard, but we need Rare Candy for those to function. And be careful there, Pedro. Don't put that Noctowl in play until there's a Terra Pokemon. Smartly, though, and wisely catches himself before he evolves it.
Yeah, well, as long as you catch yourself, right, that's the main thing. Didn't have to consider whether there's a world where you want to get rid of that Temple of Sinnoh as well. There is one double turbo energy in the deck. The energy lineup, it's so thin. It's 4 fire and then 1 double turbo energy just to get things going. And it does find off that Ultra Ball, discarding 2 Duskull, actually, it looks like. So, I mean, in the Regidrago matchup, the Dusknoir maths doesn't really maths that well, so it makes sense to get rid of those now. So yeah, going to Ultra Ball for that Terapagos, and then now, yes, evolve the new Hoothoot into Noctowl and go for that Jewel Seeker.
And I think it is going to be a candy party here for Pedro. Immediately queues up 2 of those Rare Candy to the top of the deck, really wanting to get both the Charizard and the Pidgeot EX in play, and has the advantage of them both already being there, so no need to search anything out. And now the support line is online for Pedro. He's got the Pidgeot EX, he'll have the Charizard EX, and he has not used Quick Search yet, so this turn is far from over.
Yeah, so there it is, Rare Candy evolving into the Pidgeot, and I don't know if the Charizard was already ready to go in the hand. Oh, it looks like it might be actually, yeah, so I think just debating whether you want to Quick Search first, or whether you want to just go ahead and do this Rare Candy into the Charizard, but no, going to Quick Search first after all. Going to take a decision to see what to go for, and yeah, why not just go for another Noctowl, right? Jewel Seeker number 2, let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also technically optimal to Quick Search before playing Charizard if nothing else in your hand is going to change, since it doesn't give Otavio any information about which card you Quick Search for in this case.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
It's a small little thing. It really just depends, though, on what cards Pedro will grab from this second Jewel Seeker ability. So again, any 2 trainer cards that Pedro would like can come to the hand, and immediately the Area 0 Underground is one of them. This is a big turn here for Otavio to potentially, if he can find a Gusting card plus a full bench of Pokemon, there could be a target onto something like the Teal Mask Ogre Pawn, the Regidrago V on the bench, and then that way Pedro can also find a way to take the first 2 prizes in this matchup. Instead, though, it's going to be Iono and that Area 0, so Pedro may understand that it could be a little bit too much to reach for, and may just want to take the 1 prize right now and get these Pokemon into play.
Yeah, alternatively, if you find something to gust off of this Iono that was fetched, you could just go ahead and grab the Squawk ability as well, because even the Charizard can KO that, right? 180 damage base will still be enough. So yeah, he's going to grab the free fire energy here, and I think what he attaches to is going to be very telling as to what he thinks the best method of attack is, and it's going to be what a piece on. Oh, okay, so maybe, yeah, like you were saying, take the KO on the Cleffa, but do it with the Fan Rotom for good measure. Why not?
Bring up a 1 prize Pokemon, sort of force that awkward-ish prize trade for Otavio. Fan Rotom is always a liability later on in the game if it ever takes 1 damage counter, or even if it doesn't have damage counters on it thanks to the Hawlucha being in the deck for Otavio. It can always be knocked out on the bench via Phantom Dive. So we'll see both players get their hands shuffled, put on the bottom of the deck, and draw 6 thanks to Iono. Pedro, as of right now, though, will be striking first and taking the first prize card if he chooses to knock out this Cleffa.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I think it makes, out of all the things to KO Cleffa with, it definitely makes the most sense. And then you have your Terapagos and Charizard ready to go with just one more fire attachment needed on either one in order to start attacking with them. And there it is. Assault Landing. Do you need a Stadium in play for it to work? But then it just does 70 damage for one color synergy. Not bad at all.
Not bad at all indeed, as Otavio brings up this Regidrago V to start the turn. Again, some important resources. Don't think we've seen any energy switch be played yet. That is going to be a key piece. Otavio needs to find at least one of those this turn. Can, of course, manual attach and energy switch away.
I just saw that actually Pedro took a fire energy, his last fire energy that was in the deck from the prizes. So actually it was a very, very good find from the prize cards there.
Yeah, wow, very interesting for him to, make this play knowing that's the case. Of course, if this Fan Rotom is ever knocked out or can retreat, then of course the energy can get shuffled back in. But it is sort of, some interesting conclusions. Yeah. Only playing 4 fire energy. It feels like it keeps going lower and lower with all these Charizard decks over time.
I guess you do have the Night Stretcher, right, which you always search for. So that maybe he felt confident with that, knowing that the Fan Rotom was likely to be KO'd, and so that's why he went for it. But then you just get the fire energy off the prizes, and you're good to go anyway. So that's just the bonus.
And Giratina V-Star now hitting the discard pile for Otavio, so that is always a big one-punch option that exists, especially on a Pokemon like Pidgeot EX that makes Pedro's deck run and function consistently and also gets knocked out via that lost impact due to perfect math.
And found the Prime Catcher as well off of that flip the script. So as long as this Regidrago V-Star can get set up, they will be able to take a knockout on this Pidgeot with this Prime Catcher.
We'll see another Teal Dance be used, this time the first of the turn. Putting another energy onto that Teal Mask Ogerpon, and another smart decision here, and really run me through this, is that 1 energy on the Charizard EX instead of placing 2 on there.
Yeah, it's because you want to make sure that you can attack with either one, right? So, because you only need 1 more fire energy to attack, why not give yourself the option? And you want to be able to attack with either the Charizard or the Terapagos, especially given how this damage race might go.
That is true. What I'm thinking more so is it, of course, changes the math that's needed for Myriad Leaf Shower. But usually you need just the 3 energy on, but with there only being 1 fire energy on Charizard, you would have to commit a 4th energy, which means you, of course, need to play more energy switch down, play more resources. So it kind of does both of those things for you.
Yeah, it does. I think in this instance, I wasn't considering that as much because, like you mentioned earlier, I think you really want to target down this Pidgeot this turn. Especially if you having drawn the Prime Catcher, like you said, without this Pidgeot, this deck kind of falls apart a little bit, right? So you definitely want to target that down as much as possible.
And there is that first energy switch. It does go on to this Regidrago V-Star, and as long as there's that Prime Catcher, which there is, Pidgeot is an excellent Pokemon to target down this turn, and with the Mew, can just bring the Mew up, retreat for free, back into Regidrago, and Lost Impact can take a 1-hit knockout onto Pidgeot. The only choice remaining now is what energies from where do you Lost Zone off your Pokemon?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, right? You could, if you're confident that your Regidrago won't get KO'd, then it's pretty easy. You just do the 2 bench ones. But if you're not confident of that, then maybe you could even do it like here, go for both the active, or you can take a middle approach and go 1 from each. I think that would be the way to do it. But it looks like, it's going to be just both from the active.
Yeah,
so.
It's tough here because I think with Charizard being the most likely attacker on the following turn, you kind of want to have 1 grass on both Ogerpons so that they aren't targeted. Yeah. So I think that's the thought process from Otavio. And in the worst case, you can just attack for turn and play another energy switch if you want to attack here. So good choice here from Otavio. Takes the 2 prizes, is now in the lead as action is back on Pedro. Pidgeot out of play. There's no Hoothoot in play, so Jewel Seeker is not an option, and he's stuck with whatever he has in the hand currently to make something happen.
Yeah, this is a very, very rough spot for Pedro here. Not really left with any options to draw or search any more cards. Did thankfully, as we already mentioned, get that fire energy from the prizes, kind of attach it to the Charizard, but I mean, what do you actually attack into? There's a Prime Catcher in the hand, actually, so maybe you just go for the easy 2-prize knockout on something here. Maybe, as you mentioned, target down 1 of those Ogerpon, so that at least there's 1 more grass energy knocked off the field.
You could target 1 of these Ogerpon, but that's why Otavio placed a grass on each. Wouldn't even need to use another energy switch, and it's just so likely that Otavio is going to have 2 grass energy with how his deck is built, with how much he's able to search out energy cards every turn. Pedro's really got to think about what's best, but you've got to at least take 2 prizes this turn, and it will be the choice of actually going after Fezandipiti, and that is just the strength, again, of putting the grass on both. Otherwise, Fezandipiti would not be knocked out, but in turn, it would be a little bit more difficult for these Ogerpon to be able to attack on the following turn.
And I do like, given the current board state, I do like the choice of the Fezandipiti. We have seen how strong this card is. Just those 3 extra cards drawn whenever you one of your Pokemon gets knocked out, just can be all the difference between having a comeback turn or from outright losing. So makes complete sense to target this down, just try and minimize the chances of Otavio finding those 2 grass energy to get the counter attack with the Teal Mask Ogerpon.
So Fezandipiti now in the active spot. Due to Otavio taking 2 prizes, Burning Darkness is dealing enough damage, 180 and 30 more for each prize card taken. But this is really going to be on Otavio. If he can consistently do what he's been doing, hit those check marks every single turn, find what he needs to take 2 prize turns this turn and next, there's really not a lot Pedro can do to take the advantage out of Otavio's court if he can continuously, again, save that Legacy Star. That's going to be the big point to note out on this turn.
He's done it in Game 1, and he's doing it again in Game 2. He's able to find everything he needs without making use of it, and that is so, so strong. Having said that, though, going to Pedro's side, we do see off of that, the Iono that was played, right, did actually find a Buddy Buffin, so able to find a Manaphy and a Hoothoot, and then a Nest Ball as well for good measure, did it find that Fezandipiti EX, so we'll be able to do a flip the script. And, okay, just some questions about the bench arrangement there, just to make it clear what the extra ones are, but yeah, I think that I like this a lot, and then just going to be the knockout after that. Let's see, can Otavio find his 2 grass energy?
2 grass energy indeed. It does also have the second Regidrago on the bench already, so that is solid. We'll see what this hand looks like. There could potentially be a counter stadium that can always, of course, force Pedro to go down and bench some more Pokemon. As of now, though, Otavio is going to take advantage of that extended bench space due to the Area 0, putting that 6 Pokemon into play. And we will also see the energy switch, so this works too. Now all you need is just a Teal Dance ability, and you can place the energy card anywhere else. And this is smart here, playing down the 6 bench Pokemon first. And now that the bench has been removed, both players are going to have to discard 1. And Otavio's definitely got a very easy choice in what he wants to get rid of.
Yeah, you just get rid of that Squawk ability, absolutely. No questions asked. A very, very lovely, smart heads-up play. Making use of the opponent's stadium to your advantage is something that's always really, really good to see.
And the only downside is if Otavio had a way to, maybe get Fezandipiti back in play, that would have obviously been a great ability to use this turn. However, now with the stadium being played down, the bench is locked. So there are the 2 Regidrago and the 3 Ogerpon. That's it. Here we go. Big restart here. What does Otavio find? And he finds the Earthen Vessel. That is excellent. Needed to find some sort of way to continue the turn off. And this is exactly what he needs. As long as there are energy cards left in the deck, he can find the grass energy for Teal Dance and then another energy card to commit as his attachment for turn, possibly onto one of these Regidrago V-Star, as it may want to be his attacker of choice on the following turn.
Yeah, although it looks like the deck is a little bit thin of energy, actually. Thinner than I realized. There's only 1 fire and 1 grass energy left in the entire deck.
Those are going to have to be the 2 choices then, but again, don't count Legacy Star out for naught. It is an ability that can be used later on to grab pieces like those Super Rods that can, put those energy cards back in. We saw 1 get discarded, of course, on that first turn.
We did,
and then there is, of course, 1 more available pending. Otavio does not have any in the prize cards. So for now, we'll grab the grass energy. Turn's technically not over yet. Of course, there is a 1 card draw from Teal Dance, but again, Otavio's hit everything he needs. From here, cherry on top.
1 card drawn there off the Teal Dance. Restart's already been used. Where does this fire go? I guess go on the other Regidrago riders, but nowhere else where it really makes sense to put it, I think.
Yeah, I think even if this was a grass energy, I'd really like it so that the energies would be split between these Regidrago V-Star for the sole purpose of after this Teal Dance, or excuse me, after this Teal Mask Ogerpon takes the knockout on this Charizard, there's really not a lot of use for it as an attacker later on. So your opponent's most likely going to just want to target down something like the Regidrago V-Star. Hence, why it's probably better to split these Pokemon up. So now the question here is, how does Otavio want to go about committing his energies for turn?
Yeah, it's a tough one, right? He's looking for his discard pile right now. I don't know if there was a debate about whether there was an energy attached. We know that there wasn't. Like, he can definitely attach it. Oh, he's actually going to go for the Legacy Star now.
So what is Otavio looking for at this point? We'll go ahead and use the Legacy Star Take a look and see. Oh, well, this Ogerpon only had the one energy on it to begin, so it may have actually just used the Teal Dance. So there is still an attachment left.
Yeah.
I think Otavio may want this Disruption card here, the Iono, since he knows Pedro has a slightly large hand and no access to something like Pidgeot EX. So we'll see the Super Rod go ahead and get played, and this is also due to the fact that Otavio may want to put another Grass Energy into play this turn with Teal Dance so that he can have some to energy switch in the following turns.
Yeah, so this makes that now and then it makes a lot of sense for this to be the turn where you fire off that Legacy Star, find that Iono, find that Super Rod, get the energy back, and then just you can play the Iono, and then you're going to be feeling in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, but to be honest here, the more I think about this, I really wonder if it's worth, you know, disrupting your opponent when you are already in such a commanding spot. I think the biggest concern here, the more I think about this, is a card that we have not talked about yet, and it's that Briar supporter, which is always a concern here for Otavio when you go down. But again, it's in the prize cards here for Pedro, and Otavio does not know that. That is going to be a big missing piece here for Pedro.
Right, because of course the problem here being, of course, you have that Mew EX down, so that's going to be a very easy Briar plus knockout for free prizes. So playing around that as best as he can, but yeah, thankfully for him, he doesn't know that yet. It's in the prize card, so it's not even a worry.
Any Pokemon, right? Going down at 2 prizes, Burning Darkness is going to be dealing a lot of damage. Now, of course, there is no option for that, no Charmander on the bench, but plenty of Pokemon for Terapagos to take a knockout. So we'll see Otavio disrupt Pedro, put him down to just a 3-card hand here thanks to Iono. Otavio will get 4, and as it stands right now, it seems like Otavio will be able to take these 2 prizes and cross his fingers, all for naught at this point, since there is no Briar available, by taking the knockout on Charizard, and that's really, you know, Briar having a sneaky effect at being able to steal games when it's available.
Yes, and it's very heads up for Otavio to think about that, of course. I mean, maybe you could think to yourself, oh, is there room for the Briar in this? Because, you know, there's so much different things going on, but you have to play around the chance of it, right? I mean, it is a Terra-based deck, and we've seen that, you know, Terapagos and Charizard are often playing it, so I think it is more than fair to play around it, and, well, in this instance, it won't matter, but I think it would have paid off if the Briar was available.
Yeah, even if the Briar was in the deck, there's still a lot that Pedro needs here. He needs the energy to attack with the Terapagos, the Stadium to increase the bench. He needs to find the Gusting card as well, and there's only the single Hoothoot and Fezandipiti to support him in that endeavor. So we'll see exactly what happens. Pedro will use Flip the Script to draw 3 cards. Let's see the hand draws into 3 essentially useless cards. I mean, the Area Zero's not a terrible one, but as it stands, you could take 2 prizes, but if your opponent can just power up a Regidrago V-Star, the game will be over on the following turn.
Yeah, and it's... I'm actually trying to think if he would have had it if the Briar was in the deck, because I think there is an Ultra Ball there. There's Buddy-Buddy Poffins. I actually think if Briar was available, he would have had it, you know.
That is true. If there was the Stadium, and well, there's the Stadium, and also had the Energy card as well. Don't forget that. Drew into the double Turbo Energy, had that. But I think with this Buddy-Buddy Poffin, if Pedro didn't already realize it, he's going to get the bad news that Briar is not in the deck, and now we'll have to think about what his option is from here on out.
I guess Charmander would be like one option, right? I mean, if nothing else, you just want to get as many bench Pokemon down as possible so you can do more damage with the Terapagos. That's going to be key, number 1, regardless of whether you had Briar or not. But yeah, very unfortunate there that Pedro just, with that pricing of the Briar, missed the opportunity to really steal the game from Otavio here at the end.
Absolutely, and now the question is, if you're not winning the game this turn, right, if you're just committing to taking a knockout onto this Ogerpon, what is the best thing you can do in your situation, or in your opinion, Freya, to limit Otavio's chances at winning this game?
Well, I mean, there's no Fezandipiti out, right, so that's something at least. Maybe now, given this situation, I do believe there is at least one Iono left. You can just go ahead and Jewel Seeker, grab an Iono and just disrupt the hand and just hope for the best, because, like we already mentioned, the Legacy V-Star power has been used at this point. So, were it not for that, I think it would be a very different story, because then it would be almost like guaranteed that Pedro could find the pieces. But with it gone, that definitely changes things a lot.
So there is the Jewel Seeker. So 2 trainer cards found for Pedro. There is also an interesting situation here. You see immediately looking at grabbing the Counter Catcher to go after one of these bench Pokemon, and I have to imagine that may be something like the Mew EX on the bench that could provide maybe a little bit of support, a little bit of
extra draw,
some draw here.
Buddy-Buddy Poffin coming in as well. There's 2 more spots left on the bench. Just going to be the 1 Fan Rotom down. I think there's probably, I don't think there's enough other Pokemon left to actually actually get the bench to the full amount, which is unfortunate because that means you can't quite get the KO on this Teal Mask Ogerpon because the double turbo.
Yeah, and actually going to go after this Regidrago V-Star. I wonder here if Otavio does have a switch remaining since Legacy Star was used. We saw Prime Catcher get used early on. So I wonder here now if Pedro could maybe buy himself some time to take a little bit of a slower approach in this game. Maybe go in with the Terapagos, take a big hit into this, and then finish it off with something like Fan Rotom and leave up a one prize Pokemon. So let's not count Pedro out of this game yet.
No, not at all. I can absolutely see it. Super Rod, I don't remember if we saw that used or not, because you'd want to get the Fire Energies back into the deck, say if you want to evolve that Charmander that just hit the bench into the Charizard to clean up the game from there. But it's going to be a close one no matter what. So we're going to see the retreat into the Terapagos here, and it's going to be a unified beatdown, not for a knockout, but it's going to put a lot of hurt into this Regidrago V-Star.
So just looking through the discard pile, I'm not sure I saw a switch in there, and that is, the big piece that Otavio is going to want to find in this situation. If he can find, a big combination of switch, energy switch, and one of those energy cards, the grass mainly that were taken off of the prizes, that could be what he needs to close the game out this turn.
So yes, this is going to be 160 damage coming in, I believe. No, 160 is going to be 180.
180 damage.
Or 190 because of the double turbo.
Yeah, 190 because of the double turbo energy. And now Pedro, though not able to win the game this turn, does take, a slower route, a little bit more methodical here. Can always make, some cool plays with Thorton and Cursed Blast. There's some things he can do there. But this is Otavio's opening to win the game right here and right now. Let's see the deck. There's actually, I don't think, any energy switch left, and I don't think there's a switch in there either.
Oh, no. Has Pedro just found a way to sneak this win here?
Absolute disaster. That is not what you want to see if you're Otavio, putting that Regidrago V-Star in play. Of course, if it was a V, it would be in the same situation. Yeah, just a Fire Energy, some Grass Energies in the hand, but you can't commit to Teal Dancing those on since you have no energy switch to move. It's just going to be a pass, and let's see if Pedro has what he needs to win the game. There's no Briar, that's the case. But with there being, one Duskull at least in the discard pile, if there is a Thorton still, since Otavio is at 2 prizes, Pedro could potentially use a Cursed Blast ability and take the game from there by finishing off one of these bench Pokemon if he's got another way to, gust something up into the active spot.
This is an absolute nail-biter right here at the end of this game 2. We do see the Night Stretcher coming in from Pedro. You can use that to grab any Pokemon or basic energy from your discard pile and put it into your hand, and it's going to eye up that Noctowl. Of course, that Hoothoot did hit the bench last turn, so can use that to go ahead and use the Jewel Seeker, grab 2 trainers from the deck. I think, is he able to put it together? I think he's thinking about it,
It might be close. Anything is possible with Jewel Seeker. So 2 trainer cards taken out. I wonder, have we seen the Prime Catcher be used yet? There is the Thorton, but the big question here is there one more way to gust a Pokemon out? You can use the Cursed Blast ability, but if it's on anything but this active, it's really going to not have any super solid use in this spot since something else can come into the active spot, and there's always that fear, right? That there's one more energy switch to be able to get that attack if there's not already 4 in the discard pile.
And it looks like I said the Thorton is going to be the Rare Candy plus the Super Rod. So there was already a Rare Candy in hand. Interesting that he actually opted to grab a second one here. I guess, does he want to try and set up the Dusknoir and the Charizard in this turn, maybe? Just to clean things up?
Dusknoir plus Charizard the same turn means that no matter what Otavio sends up, it would be guaranteed knocked out from Charizard. So this might be the read here for Pedro. Go ahead and take this turn to, again, set up, give yourself some time, make this play happen next turn so that you can go Rare Candy Charizard, Rare Candy Dusknoir, take the knockout on the active, and then no matter what gets promoted, as long as it doesn't even matter because of that 3 prizes. So even if a 1-prizer comes up, that's all you need.
Yeah, so this is incredibly smart and heads up from Pedro here. Super Rod shuffles in a Dusknoir and a Duskull, and one other thing I think I missed, it was an energy. Nest Ball coming in, going to put down that Duskull and set himself up for this win next turn.
Yeah, just have to make sure there's enough Rare Candy left. I think we've only seen, we have seen 2 used. So without Pedro having any prize, has just enough Rare Candy to make this happen. So Pedro managing his resources very well. Will play the Jacq, which can grab that Dusknoir that was just shuffled back into the deck. And with there being everything in hand at this point, as long as Pedro has one more turn in this game, one more chance, he will have the pieces he needs to win. He's going to pass things over to Otavio and say, if you've got the pieces here, you can close this game out, but I'm not sure it's there. Just the grass energy, going to attach that to the bench, and I think we may see Pedro be able to navigate this game through.
I think so as well. So he's going to be pass it over after touching the grass. The draw for Pedro, I think he's got it all right. There's the double rare candy.
As long as there's 2 rare candy and enough fire energy to be able to knock out this Pokemon, unless there's not enough fire energy. That's the only concern here with this situation.
He did shuffle one in with the Super Rod, I'm fairly sure, but maybe that's the only one in the deck currently, because he did have to get back, of course, the Duskull and the Dusknoir.
Well, let's see this go into play. The first step, though, is that Cursed Blast, and he's going to get to take 2 prizes here, and one of those is going to be the Night Stretcher. Is that what he needed here to figure this out? Doesn't even need it, though. Has the boss's orders in hand, so can bench the Pokemon, play boss's orders onto Mew, and despite not having the Briar, able to find another way to close this game out and tie things up at 1-1.
Wow, Pedro so stealing a victory from the jaws of defeat there right at the end. We saw that Otavio was such a dominant position, but Pedro finding a way to claw it